grow your business today. 7 steps.
How can AI help that?
And always try to get into the mindset of what the buyer needs, not what you want to sell them.
How do you get listings, at least at scale, while maintaining the quality high? How do you do that without hiring 20 listing agents? Welcome to the era of AI.
Thank you for joining us. So my name is Chris White. I'm a real estate expert, international, in over 20 different countries for over 21 years. And today I'm joined by my friend, the CEO founder of GeneAI, that's helping my business and can help your business. So thank you for joining me, Kirill.
Chris, thanks for having me.
So today we're going to break it down into 7 steps and give you useful information to take your real estate business, whether you're a developer, an agent, or involved in the industry. I'm going to help you grow your business today with either a 30% growth or 40% growth by the end of this video.
The idea truly is to take you through the entire horizontal line, from leads to close, and even after sales, 7 exact and practical solutions to implement today rather than tomorrow.
Well, I'd like to start by talking about the pain of being a real estate broker. Whether you're working for yourself, you're on your own, how that looks, all the way up to, some of the big companies you work with. I mean, what's the largest company you work with?
At the moment, the largest one has 18,000 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is the largest developer in Indonesia. The ones that will be more familiar with people, if anyone has ever been to Thailand, they will know Fazwas. Fazwas has about 900 sales agents in Thailand alone. So think about the size of managing a team of 900 sales agents and then be spread as a company across, I think, 8 more countries where they're a dominant player at least, and like 10 more where they are coming up. So Fazwas is a large one. But we don't only like to work with big ones. We work with a lot of media. I love the medium-sized companies because they're very strong in founder-led. The founder's in the middle of the operations. They have a vision, they have passion, they want to grow to a certain point. So helping them with that passion sometimes is even more rewarding than the large enterprises.
Perfect. So I'd like to kick it off by talking about step 1. So step 1, you need to find a product to sell. So whether that's you're a developer, you're building a development, or an agent, so you've got to find listings. And I've been doing this for 21 years. I mean, down in the Algarve, we carry a lot of exclusive listings. We work with around about 30 developers down in the Algarve, selling a lot of new build, resales, and there's a few things behind that. I mean, we would reach out, we'd knock on doors and see if people want to sell the property. If we see a competitors for sale sign, we'll deliver a note under the door, and then right the way through to technology. So we'll do a lot behind the scenes with SEO, and then it's reaching out and making that contact, and that can create a listing. And then when you're a developer, you need to find agents. And I've been a developer. The last development I just worked on had 123 units for sale. And we created a network of agents. I actually paid a marketing company to do this for me, and we managed to get 94 agents, and around about 17 of them were successful and sold properties for us. I mean, how could Gene help with that?
First of all, I want to say that the crazy interesting thing about that we're talking today is that there is actual 20 years of serious real estate expertise. From literally what you just described, slipping notes through someone's door, calling, that's really how it was. To where we stand, of course, hyper-modern, most tech-forward solutions. And I think combining that's what makes it actually valuable. So I like the perspectives that we have on today. But back to your question, I think this is the main point to start with. You have to have something to sell. Now, for both developers and agencies, what does that look like? And how can AI help that? First of all, for agencies, you need listings. For developers, you need a product. But how do you get listings, at least at scale, and on autopilot preferably, while maintaining the quality high? Because what's very important, and you can talk on this maybe even more and better than I can, is the quality of the listing cannot be lower than the quality of the brand you're trying to present. You cannot just upload everything if that's not your brand. If you are an everything marketplace, you should upload as much as you can. But if you are boutique, or you have a certain niche, or you're in a certain region, or you want to do a price point, you need to be selective, because every single quality of every listing will be judged by the investors, and that will gain or lose their trust. So how do you do that without hiring 20 listing agents that have to go out every single day and make that their job? Well, welcome to the era of AI. So what's now possible is, let's say you're an agency right now and you want 100 quality listings tomorrow, but you don't only want to scrape them off the internet so you have the title of the listing. What you want is the relationship with the developer. Why? Good relationships don't only result in more commissions, they also result in knowing their first next launch before anyone else. They result in hot property deals that you know all about. So building a relationship is very important. What has been the problem so far until 2024, 25, maybe even 26, you couldn't scale relationships. Because every conversation for a relationship takes time, and that takes headcount, and that just scales linearly. It doesn't scale exponentially. So what can you do now with AI? And for example, with a tool like Gene, you can reach out to developers at scale with a quality offer and talk to them conversationally, 1,000 conversations at the same time, even 10,000, qualify them as developers and listings into your agency, into active Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams meetings, where you build and solidify the relationship that should exist for you to actually list that listing. So that's one of the most beautiful ways, but maybe you can touch for a second on, you're talking to a developer, how do you actually build that relationship that the developer, at least for on a long-lasting term, respects you, understands you, and works with you?
Yeah, it involves a lot of meetings, but it's getting to that meeting, which is fantastic. But yeah, getting to that meeting, then meeting them, spending time, looking at their past history as a developer. You know, have they developed in their own country? Have they developed, as an example, in Bali before? Always trying to find that golden developer who's really experienced, adding value for the clients, finishing as on time as possible, actually owns the land as well. That's a key factor. So a lot of looking through contracts, proof of concept, and making sure that it's a friendly, happy, successful partnership.
And I think the number one valuable thing we can give everyone today, and that could be a downloadable afterwards, is a free checklist of what to actually take a listing through to understand if it's quality or not. Especially for beginner agents, if you haven't gone through, I would say, 500 conversations and then see failed deals happen because of things you've missed in qualifying the listing, then you know that this is really valuable. You just skip those 500 conversations and pain you have to go through. You do the checklist, and you'll know at least the first touch points to know whether this listing makes sense at all or doesn't. That's a very valuable thing. Now, if you're interested in that and you're like, I need more quality listings, and I want to get started while being able to scale that immediately, not only doing that checklist manually, but have AI do that checklist for you conversationally with developers, then you can definitely reach out to any of us afterwards. But this is solution number one, how to get more listings as an agent. Use and implement AI to do the conversations with developers for you so that you can focus on the relationships with the developers in actual one-on-ones.
Moving on to marketing. So this is where there's so much noise. Your bank account can be drained with Facebook ads, expensive AdWords with Google, and then there's other ways to market, you know, LinkedIn ads, Reddit ads is becoming more popular. Then there's good old-fashioned SEO, which is really important. Again, it takes a long time to actually get up there. It took me 15 years to build the first website I built and actually start gaining massive traction. Lots of other different lead hooks, giving away buyer's guides, offering up information, positioning yourself as the expert in that area, and it comes through massive repetition, you know. So so marketing can be a confusing time, and it was really confusing for me. I was in Portugal, I had 6 different businesses. I would use marketing agencies. And then I kind of got so frustrated, with the SEO company, paying them €20,000 a month. And we just didn't see the results. So I went across to Manila, built a company called International Property Alerts. It's over 1 year old now, and it helps every agent on the planet, every developer on the planet, create leads, create marketing. It's a done-for-you package. And then we communicate with the clients, and we're training the clients on equity release. So a typical example would be a client from the UK wanting to buy in Portugal. We can talk to that UK client about, don't sell your property. Let's get an equity release from the bank, move the money across to Portugal tax-free, and that's using a registered UK mortgage broker, using our currency exchange service, which we'll tell you more about later, and then going out researching boots on the ground in Portugal, spending time with my team, and then we multiplied that around the world. So with marketing like that, we can create the leads. You as agents, developers, create your own leads, and then package it all together.
Well, I do have one question on that to dive one detail deeper into it. What do you think are the most important things to do for a developer or an agent or an agency that's watching in terms of generating leads? Because it's quite confusing how many platforms there are out there. Should we do all? But we all have limited resources and budgets. Even if they're high, you can't spend the same on Google, YouTube, and on Meta without understanding whether that return is actually there. So how to approach this, and how to approach even building the reputation that you say that matters, how to approach SEO, ads, where do we even get started?
Yeah, I would say a typical example would be if you're a real estate company, and let's say you've got 100 properties for sale and they're on your website, and let's say you had a marketing budget of $10,000. I would break that down where you spend $1,000 a month and stick to it with SEO. Find a good company, or we can recommend one. And then I would spend probably $3,000 a month on Meta ads and create some really nice graphics and videos. So Meta ads, cost per lead, somewhere in between $9 and $40 per lead, and then run them through Gene as an example. That would be really beneficial. A little bit of AdWords, but it is expensive. Prices have skyrocketed over the years and competition's become massive. Then I would do some local open houses, pick one property a month, do an open house. So that's a great way to bring in new business. You might not get the sale, but it creates awareness in the market. There's lots of websites out there that can explain an open house, and my team can help you with that back in Manila.
So it sounds like still a very omnipresence approach, and then potentially just scale what really works.
Yes. Yeah, and I would never rely on one lead source.
Yeah.
So many people I speak to, they're spending $10,000 a month just on Meta ads.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, what about the rest? And then there's a big PR push. So when you're doing things like an open house, you can go to websites, you can buy PR stories. So like EIN is a great source to release newsletters for about $85.
Interesting. So newsletters as a source, how does that work? Has it been working for you?
Yeah, so it's like newsletters, and then you might create a newsletter, turn it into a PR story, and release that around the world. Creates links to your website, awareness, perhaps doesn't create many leads, so it takes time, and then you have to build it up.
Okay, interesting. So number 2, in terms of marketing, we still recommend a omnipresence approach, scale what works, but also think more creatively than just Meta, Google, etc. There are newsletter sources, of course, the open houses, view it as building your reputation and your awareness, and go like that.
Yeah, and then when you've got the leads, you've got the buyers, then nurture them. So every Thursday, property of the week, every Sunday, top 10 properties for sale. Use some email software and send it out to them and get people into a routine. And always try to get into the mindset of what the buyer needs, not what you want to sell them.
Amazing. So let's move that on to topic number 3, which is, let's say you now have the listings, you have the leads, you have what to sell, you have who to sell it to, but we now need to handle this volume somehow. And what's becoming increasingly a thing for everyone is something called international sales. Even for the who think they are the most local types of agencies, international sales becomes a relevant topic. For all developers, for sure, there are more and more people moving. There are more and more people looking to invest across borders. It's very normal for, especially in places like Bali, Thailand, Mexico, Dubai, Spain, Portugal. It's mainly international. So how do we actually handle international sales? I'll talk on that for a volume and scale perspective with AI. But let's act like AI doesn't exist. How do you do that as a real estate company? Deal with buyers from 5 different countries and how to speak their languages, understand them, and actually care about what they want.
Perfect. Care about what they want is the main thing. So it's a series of phone calls, email marketing, more recently text message marketing, WhatsApps, but it's getting in contact with the clients. The usual success rate is 1 in every 7 inquiries you're actually able to speak to. So live on the telephone, you need to be really fast getting them on the phone, and then listen to them. Ask them, like if it was someone from Australia, they're investing in Bali, ask them why. Why do you want to buy in Bali? What triggered that inside of you? And then usually they're saying something along the lines of, we want a holiday home. Some people have never thought about renting the property out. So it's important to discuss that and let people know that this can be a great investment. A common objection that you might come up against is, we're waiting to sell a property in Sydney, as an example, and it's got lots of equity in it. That's a great time to explore the possibility of getting an equity release. So the banks in Australia, some banks, you have to be careful of who you use and always use a qualified mortgage broker. Introduce them to your clients and they can talk to them about releasing equity to then buy in Bali. So you don't have to wait for the house sale. And plus, if your clients sell their house in their home country, they're paying a lot of tax. So this stacks up as an investment or a possible investment. And then they could spend 6 months of the year in Bali. Then when they're not in Bali, that goes on the short-term rental market, the property in Sydney. They might have an emotional attachment to it, so they have to kind of let go of that. And then they could use that as a short-term Airbnb or rent it out simply for 6 months. But they do have to get proper advice, legal advice and mortgage advice. And it just kind of frees people up. And then it turns them into someone who has spread their portfolio, de-risked their portfolio, and made their lives better.
Mm-hmm. So let's say that we now get some kind of lead volume. Well, even before that, you just said being fast matters. Why does it matter?
Yeah, I've done so many property events, over 500 around the world, and we would run back to the office or fly back to the office. And if you're not first on the phone, somebody else is calling them, somebody else is emailing them. Or have you ever done a purchase or went to research something and you don't get a call for a day or two? You forgot about that. Your life's moved on. So you have to be fast and you have to capture people's attention. You've got, 5 minutes to make that call? And then it's following up. Like every day, International Property Alerts, our property advisors receive between 20 and 50 new inquiries per person every single day. And you kind of leave people behind. So that's when you're kind of seeing money walk out the door.
Mm-hmm. Because you can do all these things on the front, but if you don't capture them, it's literally wasted time and efforts. Actually, we got 2 numbers for you that are both done in studies by Harvard Business Review. Very interesting for anyone to see who loves sales, and especially statistics around sales. But if you don't like studies, then here are the 2 numbers summarized. Number 1 is exactly what you just captured, but then in a number. 78% of deals go to the company that responded first. What does that mean? Yeah, besides, that sounds very high, that actually means something. It means that if you're not first, you only compete for a market of 22%. That's it. If you do aim to be first, you open up to the entire market of 100% of deals, because that 78 is in there waiting just for the one that responds first. So it's very important from 20 years of experience, and it's extremely important from a data perspective. Number 2, you also mentioned it, and it's beautiful that it aligns both numbers and real experience, is the 5-minute window. So what's now, and we all know this from personal experience, and no one has to read a study to know this, we scroll like crazy, our attention span is 0, it's not news, But what does it actually mean in real estate? Well, in real estate deals, it's now measured that the peak window of interest is just 5 minutes. Yeah? For other products, it might be shorter. For other phases or things in life, it might be different. For real estate, the peak window of interest is 5 minutes. What does that mean, like actually mean? The moment that someone signs up on your meta form that you've spent $40 for, on your landing page form that they just went through, wherever it may be, the moment they sign up, that's the moment the 5-minute window clock starts ticking. What happens when the clock runs out? A drop of 21 times of likelihood of conversion happens the moment the 5-minute window drops. Now, what does that mean? We don't have to look at it in a black or white sense. It just means being very fast matters. So this is, I think, a good transition point also to talk about what you can do and what the role of AI is there. Because besides, even if you don't know anything about AI, even if you've never adopted it, if you haven't placed any tools in your business yet, the sheer understanding that a guarantee to be first and a guarantee to be fast, yeah, if you can get those two things, and you can now take part in 78% of deals, and you can have a 21x more likelihood of conversion, is very simple. It's very simple math. You can plug in your numbers and see what happens with your revenue when you do that. AI is nothing more than a tool that allows us to exercise that guarantee together. That's it. AI allows you to be first and to be fast. And so one of the things we do at Gene is do that specifically for real estate developers and agencies at a very large scale. Because what is the beauty? Well, we don't only have to be fast with one, we can be fast with 300 leads at the same time. Why not 1,000? Why not 5,000? So all of a sudden being fast and first doesn't become your bottleneck anymore when you want to grow. It's like, okay, we've got those in the pocket. Yeah, those we have. Does that mean that all of a sudden you close 100 times more? No, you still have so much work to do. Yeah? The AI doesn't close the deal in that second, but it locks in the being first and the being fast. And if you don't do that, again, it's very clearly what happens. If you do that, it opens you exactly up to, now we have a real pipeline.
Yes, you need that pipeline of business. You absolutely. There's nothing worse than sat there thinking, where is my next buyer coming from?
Yeah.
So if you've got that pipeline, then it leads on. So that's a massive chunk of the business. And then it leads on to what I like to say, a virtual tour. So where you can set an appointment with a client, have a conversation. They're in their house in Sydney. They want to buy a property in Bali, and then take them on a virtual tour. Book that in, take them around the properties, take them around the areas, and then say to them, would you be interested in buying this over the phone? Would you like me to start negotiations? And see what the response is. If they say, well, I feel like I need to make a trip, help them book flights, help them organize themselves. You're the expert on the ground. If you're in Bali, help them book flights. Meet them on the first day, a really nice meet and greet, maybe arrange like a fruit bowl in the room, something a little bit special, and then book them out for 3 days with you. It sounds like a long time, but it takes that long to build up that bond, build up that relationship, sit back, have lunch, relax, show them the beaches, show them local schools if they're thinking of moving here, and also healthcare. That is the number one on people's list. So bring them over, book in some time with them, whether that's in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, and then nurture them until they're there.
Interesting. Yeah. So, and I like this because a lot of people ask and are afraid that AI will replace the entire thing. Yeah? But everything you just mentioned has everything to do with real good human-to-human contact. AI is not here to replace that part. AI is here to help us have 100 times more opportunities that are like that. Only the viewings and not the whole unqualified, I won't curse on the webinar, but bull that takes so much time and energy, makes you a little bit unmotivated. If you can have 100 great meetings instead of 99 unqualified follow-ups of people that are ghosting you in one great meeting, it doesn't only make you more money and get more efficiency, it also increases the way you feel about your work. Because it's much more fun. You didn't become at least I think, you didn't become a real estate agent to do admin work and CRM work the whole time, to be honest. You didn't become a real estate agent to send 100 follow-ups in a week, literally thinking that they were qualified and happy buyers, and them just ghosting you and going with the next one. That's not the job. That's not the fun of the job. The fun of the job is you're this kind of almost lifestyle concierge that books 3 days with them.
Yes, and imagine while you're out for 3 days, Gene can be booking you more appointments. So then you've finished up with the clients, fingers crossed you've helped them find that perfect property. And this is another step, is getting into the mindset of what happens when the client purchases a property from you, the success that they go through. And they go through ups and downs, they get nervous, but in a 10-year period, I've seen so many clients and it brings them back together, whether they're in a relationship, they get to spend time in Bali, they get healthier, they make money, they make rental income, and eventually they sell that property. And, you know, I've had clients that brought from me back in 2006, purchased a 3-bed apartment, James and Sarah. And he came on his own. He said, there's no way I'm buying a property without my wife's permission. And he found a property. And I said, well, you're not buying it, you're reserving it with a reservation fee. And then we'll fly your wife over and then she can have her say. So spent 3 days with him. He went home. A week later, Sarah came out. They really wanted central Albufeira in Portugal. And I persuaded him to buy in a village behind Albufeira. They got bigger property. It was 195,000 euros. They had that for a period of about 7 years and then resold that for around about 290,000. And they had some great family holidays with their 2 children. So it's getting into the mindset, you are helping the clients. And then, while all that's going on, Gene can be helping you in a massive way.
Let's touch for a second on that. I think it's one of the most important parts, and this is topic number 4, is how to actually structure the close. You hinted on it right now. It's you're helping them to take a decision. How important is it to understand that concept? That you're not trying to close this deal. That's not the goal.
No.
The goal is to help them make a decision, which could be a no to this deal.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you know this even much better than I do, but from all the real estate developers and sales teams that we speak to, they say that maybe the number one thing to gain the trust of your client is if you're able to say no to a certain deal.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Exactly right. Yeah, if you can say to a client, and you've got that much confidence that, like James and Sarah, they wanted to buy a little studio apartment or a 1-bed. It was like, I'll show you that. I've got something better that I feel that suits you. Can create an objection, but by the time you've explained it to someone, face to face, I think it took me about 6 hours to explain it to James in a funny way. You know, we spent time down the beach together, went for a beer together, had food together, and by the end of it, he just said it makes sense. So it's about, and seeing past the client just paying you some commission. It's great to get commissions, but it comes and goes, you know, but seeing the client's happiness cycle, that's what it's all about.
So have some heart in the job.
Massively.
Yeah,
Yes.
changes the game and makes you more money.
Yeah.
I want to talk about number 5, the international sale problem. More and more, and especially with our clients, and we work with a lot of, mainly in those off-plan regions, yeah? So Bali, Thailand, a lot in Dubai, Spain, Portugal, Mexico. Yeah, those are really where the areas where we shine. And all the people that have already adopted Gene and are working in AI still have, of course, a lot of problems afterwards when they do have the closing call. Why? It's international sales in all those places. Now, in a lot of, and you already touched on it before, a lot of those people get leads that say, I do want to buy, but I first need to sell this thing there, right? How to think about that objection, how to handle it, and maybe better, how to guide them in a direction to still close while they're happy.
Yeah, so this comes up time and time again. I'm sure you've heard it. And you speak to the client and they say, I'm waiting to sell a property in England, Australia, America, before I buy a property somewhere else. So let's use the UK and Portugal as an example. So typical client would say, I've brought a house for 200,000. I'm going to sell it for 600,000 over a 10-year window. So typical client would say, I brought a house for 200,000. They've owned it for 10 years. it's now worth 600,000. And the answer is, have you ever explored or thought about or imagined turning your house into an Airbnb and then spending 6 months in the nice months in Portugal and don't sell your house? You're going to pay the UK taxman a lot of money. You're going to have to pay all of this out. It creates uncertainty in the client.
Immediately on that, I have one question, because it's a whole operation to turn something also into an Airbnb. It's not the easy. It's not that hard, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world. You have to think about some things. So how would agents? Let's say we have agents and developers and sales teams right here, that are thinking, okay, I like the handle to that objection, but I'm also kind of sending them away to do another action, and then I'm just waiting for them to come back to me? Or do we have ways to help them even implement all of that?
We've got ways and guides to help them.
How to think about that?
It's first about exploring the idea. So the conversation normally goes, okay, so you're waiting to sell your house in London, in the UK for 600,000. Have you thought about releasing equity from your house where it's tied up, it's not doing anything, and asking the local bank, like Halifax or Lloyds, and some of them banks in the UK, and that's the bank's job, is to lend you money. If they don't lend you money, they're out of business. So it's kind of a question where it goes, have you explored this? If the answer's a dead no, you've lost nothing. Okay, but if it's a yes, you put them in touch with a UK mortgage broker, and we can assist with this, who's qualified, and will take them through the process, give them all the costings, all the ups, the downs, the insurances, everything, and they just make that process happen. You speak to the client a few days later, and usually they're nervous, but they're excited. And then they can explore that angle. Then they go to Portugal, spend 3 days on the ground with a team, getting more educated. They might fall in love with a property that they see, releasing the equity, and then at that point we can talk to them about how all this is going to be funded. So in the UK, they could do a 6-month rental, so 6-month short hold rental that would cover the mortgage while they're in Portugal, and then while they're in Portugal, they're staying in their property, and then afterwards, when they leave, then we can help them turn it into an Airbnb in Portugal. So they've got the best of both worlds. And that's the best thing about this, is you're splitting your investment. You're not swapping one thing for another.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific services or partnerships that agents would have to start closing to actually help their buyers turn it into an Airbnb, have it managed, etc.?
Yeah, it's something that myself, my colleagues, my employees, my team have been training people on this for years, for 20 years.
Yeah. Very nice. So that was number 5, and it's basically how to handle the I first have to sell something else objection. Yeah, honestly, helping them get a much better life because there's more cash flow. You keep the equity, you don't pay the taxes, and you make the sale and you make the commission. So you help them with their investments grow more, and honestly, the result of that after 2-3 years is that they are with you again.
Yes. And the important thing is to have access to all these people, like great lawyers, tax experts, people who can give great advice.
Let's go to number 6, and this is one for developers specifically. I've always wanted to know, because we have the question actually from some developers. A lot of real estate developers, and if you're one, you will know that this is true. You would love to just develop and not sell. Why nowadays every developer also becomes a marketing agency, a sales agency. They have to become a whole other company besides their development company, doing already the architecture, the construction, the planning of the project, the finances, etc. We have a lot of developers that ask us, is there a way that I can literally give my project in the hands to someone and then only talk to my clients after the deal's closed? Is there?
Yeah, so we did this last week. A developer in Bali, one of my team reached out to a client and sold them a property and took the reservation just before we're about to sign the contract, introduced them to the developer, his team, his after sales team, and yeah, client's really happy, already recommending somebody else to buy. So we've done this for years. I mean, it all changed after COVID. Everything became harder for a long time, and then 6 weeks later we launched on Zoom, and we launched a webinar, and we sold 11 properties that day for a developer in Portugal, and then it kind of scaled it from there over a 3-year period. And it ended up with selling for a developer who's got no marketing team. He normally just gives us the plans. We design everything. And we sold his last development in a record-breaking 7 minutes. And it was 79 units. The total value was 58 million.
Yeah, amazing. 7 minutes, 58 million. How do you even orchestrate that?
It was a big job, but we scaled it. And we talked to our audience for a long time. Nobody actually came to Portugal.
It was all done online / through calls.
Online calls, videos, emails. And then we released the development. It was truly below market value. Because you're taking away from the developer is not having to create all this marketing, it's not creating all this content.
So his margin can go down, it's okay. Yeah.
And plus that particular developer had owned the land in his family for about 30 years. So as an example, we sold 2-bed, 2-bath units for 477. The development's just completed. A few of the clients decided who brought 2 or 3 units, decided to resell. So they're now selling them at 680 to 720.
Yeah, makes sense. Would you still run these kind of like done for you sales setups?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it depends on the development, what they need, what they expect. We don't expect to come in and replace someone's entire marketing. So sometimes we're just adding that 10% value, 50% value, or we can talk about a custom deal.
To round that off a little bit, let's say we have developers, what kind of projects would you be working with and what kind of projects would you not be doing this for?
It works at a certain price point. I normally look for, really high quality, lots of facilities. In Thailand, as an example, we've got a great developer there, UK developer, building in Phuket, really high quality, 5-star standard. And it's 100% plastic free, so there's an eco-friendly side to it. And then, just a quality developer, and then below market value as well. So that's really important. And
why is that so important, below market value?
Well, we've got something called hot property alerts, which is our investor list, our database. The promise to our investors, and has been for many years, is we will only talk to you when there's something that's an absolute amazing property deal. Like myself, I've brought a lot of bank repossessions in Portugal, ranging from £125,000 houses all the way up to big developments at $20 million, lots in between. So bank repossessions are something that you have to keep an eye on and look out for, and then right the way through the range.
Let's go into topic number 7, after sales. This is so interesting, and I love these kind of things. A lot of people think that it's from beginning, lead, to close. But there is so much revenue, sometimes even with much higher margins, it can be much higher volume in after sales. There's a lot of stuff to do there, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's say you are an agency or a developer, and maybe there is not a lot of difference between. What kind of things could you offer your clients that you can still capitalize on in after sales, and how can we structure that?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is imagine your clients finished the property. They've got the property, it's empty. And have a walkthrough in your mind. Think about everything they're going to need. So you walk into the property, they might need an alarm. If they're going to rent out an Airbnb, some electronic door locks, furniture throughout. They might want to add value by putting in extra services, a projector, cinema room. All these things are going to add up that they make more money. And you add extra service to the renters and their lifestyle. Other services like visa services. A big one that people overlook nowadays is currency exchange. So again, been doing this for 20 years. And I asked some developers, do you ever get clients who get close to buying? They go back to their chosen country, they go into their bank and the bank says, well, why are you sending money to Bali? And the answer was yes. And I said, so you've got all these payment softwares like Wise, Revolut, and they're not really geared up for this. We had a client last week, he sent £20,000 via Wise and it got blocked.
Yeah.
And they asked for
and it actually gets stuck.
Yeah. So with our VIP currency exchange service called First Class Currency, they get a personal banker. So it's like a personal banking service. It's FSA regulated via the UK. So really regulated market. They get a phone call, they have to pass, basically they have to give in their passport, a copy of their passport, proof of address. They open a currency exchange account, and then the currency broker will keep an eye on the exchange rate, tell them when to exchange their money to get the best result. They don't have to pay banking fees, and this is a really important part, they can fix the exchange rate for up to 2 years. So if the developer's receiving payments over 2 years, it de-risks everything.
That's actually really interesting. How much, you probably know, how much do you save projected as a developer or even as an investor? Because in fees, you can pay a lot of things.
In fees and in the hidden exchange rate. So most clients on 100,000 purchase can save between $600 and $4,000.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's massive for that kind of ticket. It's like, what is it, 0.5% to 4%?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so how do they find out more about currency exchange?
Yeah, so we can include a free guide, how to look after your clients, how to use the currency service.
Interesting. I actually didn't know about that yet, and I should offer that to more of our clients because I do know that it's a big headache. And we got a lot of questions like, exactly like that. Can I transfer my funds through Wise, through Air Wallets, etc.? Especially if you talk about a 400k property. Yeah, you can't. And so I do want to add something to that because now the first part you do is check out the guide and understand which services to include and how to look after your client. That's number one. Number two, how do we offer that to the client at scale? You cannot be mentioning that every single conversation you have them all the time, because then you're more upselling than servicing their actual needs. So you have to do this in a way that makes sense. Now, first of all, when we talk about scale, it's logical that AI can play a role there. What about besides scale? Automating it. And I think that's the most important part. What you don't want, I think, is that, except if it's the right moment and you're making a walkthrough and you're talking about the cinema, it's the right moment to upsell. But what you don't want is to be an upselling ad machine all the time, because that's annoying. So if you have either a group or a community for your investors, or even one-on-one on WhatsApp or on Telegram or wherever it is that you have the contact with your client, an automated way that's not annoying to them because they want to know, even if it's email, can convert super much, and it goes out on autopilot. If the client has questions on WhatsApp, on Telegram, the AI can respond conversationally because it's never offer, buy. That's never it. It's offer, question, 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 objection, question, wait, follow up, question, question, objection, wait, follow up, buy. So if you can take care of that, while you don't risk to have some negative conversations with your existing clients about services that they don't really want, so you keep it away from you, you automate it and you can scale it while opening yourself up to extra revenue streams, because really don't underestimate how much extra you can make just from referring, just from helping them well with other businesses that you can refer them to. It's truly amazing. So automating that, really look into it, different AI tools, and of course we do it at Gene, helping you automate other revenue streams besides the actual deal. Okay? You can always reach out, we can talk about how we actually do that. And if you're really interested to see how we do that live, so what does it look like in front of maybe a Zoom call if we can, then I'll put you in contact with one of my team members. You can click one of the links below for sure, book a live demo to see both how Gene works on the qualifying clients end as well as on the upselling end when it comes to after-sales services. I do think that wraps up the 7th point, which is at the end of our funnel, after sales, what you have to sell and how you can sell that. Is there anything else that you would like to give agents, agencies, portals, developers, and other people in real estate today?
I would say, we've talked a lot about the process, how this can all work. And then I just want to touch briefly on in-person events. So, massive fan of in-person events. It's great to meet face-to-face, go to that person's country, do an in-person event, do some public speaking. be on a stand. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about, a little bit more about hot property alerts and how
good one.
this really can help your clients. We're working with lots of different agents, lots of different developers. So reach out about hot property alerts. It's the chance to sell lots of different properties for developers in a very fast and efficient way. And then for other agents out there, it gives you the opportunity to offer your clients that are on your database, your social media, that extra.
Can you explain 1 second what would qualify as a hot property? Just maybe give us 1 or 2 examples.
Yeah, so particular villa that I purchased myself, I purchased that from the bank. It was a bank repossession. So it was an old house, unused, unloved. I managed to purchase that in a split second. I saw it, there was about 10 other people lined up. I purchased that for $420,000. I got a 90% mortgage, an interest rate of only 1%. I then invested more money, more funds from a previous project, and then invested money in it, got the villa finished in 7 months, new valuation at $980,000, and I'd invested another $300,000 into it. So I pulled all my money back out and then rented it out in the summer over a 7-year period. It gave me a 19% rental yield towards the end. And then I sold that recently, about a year ago, for $1.675 million. So that to me is a hot property. And we have lots of deals like that available that you can give to your clients, and we're always looking to work with quality developers.
And so how would it actually work day to day? So I imagine signing up for hot property alerts. Do I get like emails when there are things popping up or something, and then I have to act quick? Like how does it work?
Yeah, so every day we're talking to our investors, updating them on market conditions. We do live in-person events with up to 500 people at the same time. We do workshops teaching them how to invest overseas. We do a Zoom call every single week at 5 o'clock, so people can ask us questions. We're talking about successes. You're away from success, so kind of things to avoid. So when to walk away, when mortgage rates are too high, UK tax system, things like that. Everything that's current is on that 5 p.m. call every Thursday.
Very nice. You'll see me there.
Perfect.
Very good. Okay, let's round off with that. We can call that bonus point number 8, which is events and hot property alerts. By the way, for events, honestly, it's still in real estate. I think it's the highest converting, like literally whether you're in my space in technology for real estate, or you're selling real estate, or you're buying real estate, it doesn't really matter. I think it has everything to do with the fact that real estate is still one of the highest ticket things in the world. Most of the time it's the largest purchase of anyone's life, or it's the second largest purchase of your life. And that's why trust and human to human is so important in the actual full sales process. So I think events are beautiful. I do want to drop one very cool new feature that we're about to release, and this will be the first place we drop it actually. And that is, imagine you go to an event. Let's say we go to Manila, and there are 1,500 people. Imagine exchanging business cards, QR, this, that, right? You're capturing them. Now you have to follow up with all of them. But what if at one NFC chip scan, immediately your buyer or your partner or whoever gets a text from Gene, qualifies them for you, books a meeting for you while you're still in the event running around.
Really? That's efficient. That's amazing. And that is definitely the way the world's going.
Absolutely. And I think some people are still getting used to it, but I think it will become so normal that we may scan each other's card, and we know that our AIs are now setting up the appointment together, which makes sense because they work for us, with us, so that we can continue on the event, have a sip of coffee, listen to whoever is speaking.
Perfect. So they're learning at the same time.
Yeah.
As Gene's working for you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly.
So I'd like to wrap this up. Let's wrap this up. We've got a special offer for you. So we onboard roughly around about 10 new clients every month for international property alerts. Our normal price to list your properties on our platform starts at $495. And to help you out, to help ourselves out, to help Gene out, we're going to do this at only $295 for to the next 10 people. So click the link below, reach out to the team, reach out to Ben, Toby, Andy. They're in the office waiting to speak to you. And then if you ever need to speak to myself or Karel, just reach out.
Thank you so much. And if you're looking to see how Gene actually works in real life, for either you as an agent, an agency, a portal, or a developer, you can always book a call. My team will show you live, and yeah, it will be very exciting. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out.